everyone. I'd like to say thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Very nice to meet you. If we want to all go around and give a little introduction about each other.
So I guess we'll go alphabetically. I'll be short. My name is Daniel Brinson. I'm a middle school counselor or elementary school counselor. I've been in education about 25 years now, so that's my background. But I also fancy myself as an investor and a serial entrepreneur here and there. So I've had bars, I've had houses, no commercial property, but I've kind of dabbled in different things during my spare time.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Mr. Brinson.
Crystal, you want to go?
Oh, sure. My name is Crystal Shockley. I'm the owner of She Organizes. It's a home and office organizing company where we believe in packing lights and living simple. Let's see, I'm in Houston now. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I've been in Houston for 8 years. I came here to get my mom into MD Henderson Hospital. Since then, the Lord has called her to be home, but prior to that, we had decided that Houston would be our new home. So I'm making things work here as an entrepreneur, and I'm loving it. And I also virtual personal assistant for Mr. Marshall, who's also on the Zoom meeting. I've been with him since 2013.
Oh, wow.
In a long time.
Is that right, Mr. Marshall? Yeah.
Long time.
And I love working for him.
I'm gonna put
I
you
love
on
working for
bank
him.
taxes as dependent. It's been so long.
Wow, okay.
All right, so I'm James Marshall, owner of Marshall Wealth Management, which is a registered investment advancement firm that specializes in comprehensive financial planning. Been doing this for 31 years. All of our clients are African Americans. 85% are women, but 80% of our high net worth clients are men. Any investment that exists, we can get it for you, but our main thrust is education. We believe in educating the community about building multi-generational, multi-family.
Mr. Marshall, for those who don't know, what is generational wealth?
Well, generational wealth is when you have enough money in assets, enough assets, whether that be cash, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, real estate, enough assets that the next generation and the next generation can live off of the interest of the principal without going into the principal. So think of it as you have, let's use a number, $100 million. Well, you know, the family is never going to touch that 100 million. They're going to be living off of the income that's generated from that 100 million. That's generational wealth. It's way different from being rich. There's being rich, there's being wealthy, and then there's having generational wealth.
And would you say off of that, the generational wealth is better? Can you say it's better than being rich or being wealthy?
Oh, and it's the one thing that we have been lacking. Not really had an opportunity to build it. You know, think in terms of a mile relay race. I used to run track in college. I ran the 400 intermediate hurdles and the mile relay. But on the mile relay, everyone runs around the track one time, then they hand the baton off to the next person. Well, in our community, we have to turn around and run back the other way, then hand the baton off to the next person. So we really had an opportunity to build up enough wealth to transfer it on. Now, that can be solved. You know, it's not all just about systemic racism, and that's a big part of it. It's also about just not preparing to take care of the next generation, and it's all about not being so selfish and keeping all the money for yourself and spending it without giving thought to what will happen when you go on forward.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Marshall, for explaining that very thoroughly.
Okay, I also looked at generational wealth as, you know, assets and money, but Mr. Marshall, this is for you. I also looked at education and knowledge. Is that something you can also lump in as generational wealth?
Well, knowledge is wealth, without a doubt. Health is wealth, spirituality is wealth. But without the knowledge, if Dan, if you accumulated $25 million and you left it to your kids and they were not educated on what to do with it, then it would be gone before they able to give it to the next generation. So education is a critical part. And that's why really wealthy people have what's called family offices. Because, you know, they say that intelligence skips a generation. So you might have some kids that are pretty stupid, They just might blow all that money. So the
Wow.
Rockefellers and the Johnsons and all the big families, they have family offices. And a family office has all the professionals and consultants and people in place that can run that business enterprise for the benefit of that child. They never have to worry about a thing. But that starts at about 250 million. But education is critical. Without it, you're just going to run into a wall. Yes, it's not a family bank as though you see a bank. So
Okay.
we've been pushing that a lot with our Hive system. We have a system called the Hive, Hive.
Okay.
And it's set up to promote multi-generational, multi-family banks or multi-family wealth. Now, when you do a private family bank, basically what you're doing is you're getting you and your sister and brother and your cousin, auntie and uncle, and you're opening up a brokerage account at a brokerage firm. And then you're going to have a trust fund or a LLC own that account. So it's going to have a tax ID number of its own. It's not going to be any one person's name, but there may be one or two people who can sign against that on that application or that account. And then you just put money in and you use that money to finance cars, put down money for down payment. Anything that a person might go to a bank for, you can do it at your family bank. It's a family cooperative, economic cooperative.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's family because this week's podcast on my 100 Wealth Building Secrets podcast is economic empowerment through family cooperatives. So it talks about the ideal of combining your assets into one organization for more power. She was taken advantage of, she was scammed, she'll never get her money back. It's unfortunate, but oftentimes we are taken advantage of because one of the problems in our community is we're often looking for a get rich quick thing. Something that's going to allow us to double and triple our money. Listen, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Right. Common sense is the big rule. And you often sold these type of investments. You don't call a broker and say, hey, how about some of those Iraqi dinar? No, someone calls you or you go to a workshop and they put a hard sell on you, or someone that you know invested, they don't want to be the only one taking advantage of, so they pull you in. And that's how it happens. But you can always report that person who sold it to the state securities board. No, and that is an excellent question. You have to think in terms of multi-generational and multi-family wealth. Imagine if you go to your family reunion, if you have one, and you got 7 different families there. The Smith, Johnsons, Millers, Wilsons. And if everyone put in $100 into this cooperative trust that we talked about earlier and put it into this bank, now you can use that money to invest in real estate, invest in apartment buildings, buy life insurance on the older people in the family, have a cooperative for the health insurance co-pays, a cooperative for your life, for your the homeowners insurance co-pay. You can do so much when you have that cooperative account. So no, it's for multi-families. Now, you don't want to bring in people who are not like-minded people. Okay. You're going to have someone in the family who just doesn't want to get on board, right? They don't want to cooperate. They don't want to follow the rules. Then, you need to go and kick them to the curb. Okay. One monkey don't stop no show. See, that's what happens. We try to get everyone on board, and then they're not on board. But then what happens is 5 years down the road, when your cooperative trust or family bank is doing well and they're into a problem, then they want to get in. So you want to make sure you have something in place to deal with that very thing because it's a reality. But no, multi-families. It doesn't have to be family. It could be friends. It could be everyone in the same church. It can be, because if you have a cell, which is one family, then you have a unit, which is multiple families. Then you have the hive itself, which is a community. Okay. So let's say that that cell puts money into the hive, which is the Urban League. And then the Urban League can take their money and recycle it back into the community through grants or other disbursements of cash, because this is a nonprofit arm of your whole cooperative trust approach?
I can only speak for myself. So I was late into investing only because my parents were from that generation of just save, save, save. You know, their parents came up through the Great Depression. So, we're literally, putting money in the bank and just holding it, nothing, not making great interest. So I didn't learn about investing and saving and generational wealth probably until I got to college, at Alabama State. Shout out to Dr. Dorothy Autry, who taught me about the Oklahoma race riots and the Black Wall Street. But before that, I'm talking about 18, 19 years old, I didn't know anything about that. How do you instill these, or how do you get the information out to the masses, to African Americans? Because there's definitely a disconnect between the generations right now. So what's the best way to bridge that gap?
And also a shout out to Alabama State. I did a workshop there, a talk there years ago. The Chamber of Commerce brought me in to speak. Anyway, listen, I used to say, oh, it's terrible, we're just not getting the information, but the information is there. We are not embracing it. We treat wealth like we treat math sometimes, something you just don't want to touch. I'm not going to be good at it, I don't want to deal with it. You got to embrace it on your level. There's so many books, podcasts, websites, so many ways that you can get the information. I do workshops all the time, and I know there are other advisors around the country who do them as well. So if you want the information, you can get the information. This is true. Now, the older you are, the less likely you are to embrace this new concept of accumulating wealth through investments, especially with Wall Street, because older people have a fear of losing their money, and that's fine. Because as you get older, you don't need to be investing so much as you need to be protecting your assets.
Yeah.
So that's good. Just know where you are in the cycle. But there's a lot of books that you can read, a lot of podcasts that you can listen to. If you open up an account with just Fidelity, with their discount brokerage account, they have a great website for teaching you things. MarshallYourMoney.com, which is my website, has a whole series of videos, and podcasts, and all types of letters and workshops that you can plug in and listen to at your own leisure. So it's out there. You just have to look for it and take part in it. And then not only that, take action with the information that you get.
That's interesting that you would say that, because I hear people discuss these concepts and I always tend to block them out for the reason that you just said. I'm like, oh, I can never do it. I'll never be able to do, and I just have a mental block up as far as it's concerned.
But the cool thing, Toya, is that Black women are better investors than men.
Okay.
Men, Dad's gonna want me to give him a hot stock that he can put money in today and double it by next week. Okay. He wants that hot red Corvette stock. You want to get from point A to point B without a whole lot of hassle, and you just want to see your money grow.
Right.
And women tend to be a little bit more disciplined and systematic towards their approach than men. You would think that, I don't want to sound sexist, you would think we're going to be more emotional, but that's not the case.
Okay.
So the key thing is invest in what you know.
Okay.
Invest in what you know. If you like to shop at Target, buy stock in Target.
Okay.
Like Nike shoes, buy stock in Nike. Know how the company makes its money and then invest in that. And always buy low and sell high.
Right.
Don't jump on the hype. When your Uber driver and your hairstylist and your plumber starts talking about these hot stocks they're buying in, or they're in Forex, so that's a hot thing now, then you know that we're at a bubble that's getting ready to bust. That's when everybody just on board, just think they're gonna make money. This Forex thing is just getting out of control. But anyway, don't let it intimidate you is what I want to say. Y'all get me excited now. You got to stop me. I'm talking fast.
Thank you.
Let's see. So how can one acquire the knowledge of creating and maintaining generational wealth?
Well, you mean what might they read? So I think I was one of the questions was the books. Are you not at that question yet?
It's like the generation I'm a part of, or we're a part of, we're kind of, some of us, majority of us, it seems like we're lost financially. And I had this discussion because it's to save money and think about the future, whereas before I didn't plan for the future because I was really thinking like I may not even be here. So I was just living for right now. Whereas at the time, my ex-husband, he was looking toward the person. Okay.
But I'm going to guess at what you're asking me. Go ahead and answer while you move around.
Okay.
You know, everyone comes to Jesus at a different time in their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you gain knowledge or understanding of the magic of compounded interest at an early age, then you're going to have more wealth because you're starting your snowball higher at the top of the hill. So if you come into it later in life, you just won't have as much time to allow compounded interest to work for you, but it will still work. Better late than never. That's the key thing.
Okay.
Know about your benefit package at your job, your 401k. Most people build a good portion of their wealth through their 401k or their home. It's going to be your home or your 401k. Those are going to be two ways you're going to really build wealth. And then once you leave that company, almost always take your 401k with you, roll it into an IRA so you can maintain control. Don't take the money without rolling because then you'll be taxed. But do a tax transfer into an IRA, then you can continue to manage the money. If you leave it at the company in that 401k, you'll have to stay with whatever company they bring on to manage it, which may change from time to time. So take advantage of every source of education that you have, your 401k, 403b if you're a teacher or work for a nonprofit, or a 457 plan. 457 plan if you're for a municipality. And then just take advantage, take action, and do it. That's the key thing. If you are just starting to invest at age 60, then you probably don't want to be too aggressive, unless you plan on working for at least another 10 years. Which brings me to this. If you cannot invest or let your money work for you for at least 3 to 5 years, you should not be investing in stock. Let me say that again because it's critical. If you cannot keep your money invested for at least 3 to 5 years, you should not be in a stock market. You should be in a savings account. When you have a shorter time frame, you have a greater chance of losing money. At 1%, at 1 year, you might have a 50% chance of losing your money. 3 years, it drops down to 20%. Over 5 years, 10%. Over 15 years, it drops like 2% chance of losing your money. So the more you let your money, the longer it works, the greater wealth you get and the less risk you're taking on. That brings us to another point on this, is know what your risk tolerance is. Now, Dan's probably aggressive. So if he's aggressive, he's going to be looking at stocks with a PE ratio of 20, 25, and 30. Stocks that might really be undervalued now, but he feels like they're going to be good about later. Or he might be looking for more IPOs if he can get his hands on it. Well, now Toia may be more conservative. She doesn't want to see the value of her account go down. So she might be looking at a more moderate portfolio that's more evenly diversified. Some bonds, some blue chip stocks, and a little bit of small caps in there. So you need to know where you are and how you should allocate your money so that you can maintain what we call negative correlation. I'm gonna get a little in the weeds if I can. So you've got 20% of your money into international, and you got 30% of your money into large cap value, Johnson & Johnson. 10% in technology, and technology really takes a tank. It goes down. The market is just crazy in technology. Well, another part of your portfolio may be going up, that blue chip. And it's going to offset the gains, negative correlation on that small cap. So that's why diversification works so well, because you don't know when a index is going to go up or down. You just want to have something in there that's going to counter that.
And that's a perfect example of what happened back in March. I watched my Roth IRA, I watched it like a hawk. I just watched the value go up and down. And we took a big hit in March when things dropped, So it's funny you should mention that. It was nice that I was aggressive when I was probably from 25 to about maybe 35. And then I started tailoring things back. I got into more municipalities and things that would give me my money steady growth. And it's just so funny you mentioned that, Mr. Marshall. Closer I get to retiring now, I'm under less than 10 years left. Now I'm starting to scale things back a little bit, and I want to protect my money, protect my assets.
10 years, well, you gonna retire when you're 45 or something?
No, I'm 45. I'll be retired from 57.
He's a young guy, man. I like that. That's good. But now let's talk about that for a second, Dan, because if you retire at 56, And the strategy of moving towards bonds 5 years out from retirement may not be good for you because you'll still be so young.
Okay.
56 is very young. You still got another 30 years to live. So if your money is not consistently beating inflation, your dollar's gonna be weaker when you take it out and spend it. So you need to make sure that you maintain a good asset allocation or have 50% of your portfolio into a safe and secure investment such as a index annuity.
Okay.
40% would be in growth, and then 10% would be in speculative. That would be things that you don't mind losing, but if they hit, they'll hit big.
They hit big. Yeah.
Well, doing this for 31 years, I've seen a lot. And I started out with Merrill Lynch back in 1988. And they told me I was spending too much time in the Black community, and they fired me. I went to New York Life in Washington, D.C. They told me I was spending too much time in the Black community. So actually, they didn't fire me. A love took me to D.C. and a broken heart made me leave. When I came back to Louisville, I was with the American Express. And once again, educating the community. See, when you go into our community and you sort of educate people, it takes time. And you're not going to just get people to come in with millions of dollars to invest. You might get 20 here and 30 there. And people need to trust you. It's not trust. So, they were telling me you spend too much time in the Black community. So what I realized was no one really had an interest in educating our community on building real, long-lasting generational wealth. They wanted to come in and get your 401k rollover or your insurance proceeds or whatever, invest it, and just leave it alone. So I decided that was not going to do it. And we set up our firm around educating the entire community about building wealth, not for yourself, also for your family. So understanding life insurance and how it works. So I learned about it just from various companies going to workshops all around the world, to include the $1 Million Round Table, which is where I really found out about generational wealth. Is that me with the reverb or what?
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how it's doing it. It's weird. Okay. The $1 Million Round Table is the top 3% of agents and advisors around the world. And when you go there, you meet a lot of really sharp people. And what I found was a lot of the agents were Asian and African. And the Asians and Africans and Jewish, most of their clients were in their own community. And they were buying huge amounts of life insurance. Because that is the secret to generational wealth. It's life insurance. I'm telling you, it's not Wall Street, the stock market. It's life insurance. That money goes tax-free to the next generation. Tax-free.
Okay.
Make you go,
Right.
And it's not sexy. It's not something that people want to talk about. Oh, I got a $2 million life insurance policy. But I'm telling you something. If you have a parent who's 60, 65, 70, 75, and you can put insurance on that life, and the premium is $500 a month for a $200,000 policy, you should still do it. Because you're going to get that $200,000 tax-free. If you set up a irrevocable life insurance trust to own that policy, now that won't go through your estate, but it goes straight to the trust. And then you're talking about perpetual, multi-generational wealth. So is that helpful in terms of how I learned about it? It was just mostly just getting out, talking to a lot of other professionals, seeing how we were way behind everyone else. Did you know the average net worth of a Black woman your age? Toia, what would you think the net worth is of a Black woman your age? I imagine you're probably only 22, but since you've done these amazing things and had those different jobs, you might be a little bit older. A Black woman aged 30 to 45, what do you think their net worth is on average?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know.
$5.
What?
Yeah.
What did you say?
$5.
$5.
$5.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. And we routinely fall behind in terms of our household A black family has a household wealth of about $15,000. Hispanics about $17,000. A white family about $30,000. And it's been that way for a long time. And whereas you see that we have more wealthy people, but from a percentage point of view, that's not the case. You've heard of the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Well, in terms of wealth, it's more of a 90-10. 10% of the people in our community have all the wealth in our community, and nationwide, less than 5% of the people control 95% of the wealth in the country.
Mr. Marshall, you literally made me want to cry.
Yeah, it should make you want to cry. But as long as you have a net worth that's more than $5, don't cry too hard.
Wow.
But yeah, here's my philosophy on why this happens. We suffer from what I call the Mo Better Black syndrome. Mo Better Black syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're doing better than our little circle, then we're cool. And how do we prove that? By what we drive, the bling bling on our hands, the vacations we take, the house we live in, mostly what we drive and the vacations we take, and who picks up the tab when you go out for your drinks or happy hour. Madison Avenue and Hollywood have single-handedly molded our mind into being consumers instead of producers or investors. So that's how we got here. But we know that's the case, so now we need to change it. And the good news is young people are seeing things a little bit differently.
I concur with that. I wanted to kind of ask a question because I know, Mr. Marshall, you have, 4 or 5 sisters?
I have 4 sisters.
You're the baby, right?
Yeah, I'm the baby.
So have you encouraged any of them to follow your footsteps?
I have tried. 2 of them, 2 out of the 4 have, and they've done well.
Good.
Those other 2, boy, they've been the rough ones. I continue to try. I continue to push. And I talk about the hive and the multifamily wealth and the family bank. And I have not successfully set up one in my family yet. So that tells you it's not easy. But you just got to keep pushing. And then one day they'll come around.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's like a lack of trust?
Well, I have a book out that's called The Fool and His Money, The Financial Education of Anthony Fool. And one of the lines in the book, Anthony says to me as his advisor, he calls me M. He says, man, M, I'm from the Wilson family. We don't trust each other with our liquor, let alone our money. We don't trust each other. we trust family members less than we trust friends in some cases. Right. But that's something we got to get beyond, baby steps. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? But that's what it is exactly, Toia, is trust, because they've known you in your life. They remember you used to stick, pencils in your nose or do crazy stuff, so they don't want to trust you with $100,000. So it's interesting, something we need to get beyond.
Because I actually floated the idea to my family, and my youngest daughter's like, So I'm like, okay, you don't trust me?
Yeah. And then it's also envy. If your other family members think you're doing better than them, they might not want to get on board with this idea because they feel like it's going to benefit you, not me. And
that's sad to hear. Jeez. Yeah.
But have you seen that to be the case? Have any of you talk with your family members and find that sometimes they resent the fact that you're sitting out on your patio smoking a cigar, you got your own YouTube page, or you got your own business organizing it? They think you're just balling out of control, right?
Yes.
Well, I guess I've been blessed because my first generation cousins, my first set of cousins, they're all really doing well for themselves. Most of them are teachers. I think 8 out of 13 of us are teachers. We're education. The other ones are in business for themselves, entrepreneurs, restaurants, stuff like that. So once again, I can only speak for myself. I learned everything from them, just like, well, how do you do this? How do you do that? That's why I got a Roth IRA. That's why I got an annuity. That's how I learned about a 403B, so a lot of that stuff I learned from them just by watching. And it's funny that you said about your circle. Like, I try to increase my circle where I want to, I don't want to be the smartest man in the room. I want to start learning. So last week I got a chance to sit down with this millionaire from Atlanta, and I just sat there and I just soaked it up, listened to everything he said, and
he knew a lot about my finances and what I was doing with houses. And he said, yeah, you sold too early, you sold too late, Dan. You know, so I talked to him for about 5 hours, literally, when he was here in Cleveland, because it was
Did
so
you
much
find that when
information.
you spoke with him, Dan, did you find that most of the things he said was common sense?
You know what, the biggest thing we talked about, you already mentioned it, but we called it delayed gratification. You're making investments today for 15, 20 years, you know, later, and you have to keep that mindset. What I'm doing today is not going to maybe benefit me directly, but 15 to 20 years from now, you know. And I was like, that it clicked, you know. So you guys are all you financial guys are saying the same thing, but I don't understand why most people aren't getting it. And you know, this is that microwave generation, you know, including my generation. We want everything right then and right there. And if you could see it, I see him. He's a millionaire. He's doing something right. You know, I should want to be like him instead of being so competitive. You know,
Well,
I know
and that
Toia
brings us to
mentioned
another book that's out there. I don't know if you read it yet. It's called The Millionaire Next Door.
you were off. My stepson, I just bought that for him probably about 3 weeks ago for a graduation gift. He's already read it, been through it. He read my
And let
Robert
you know, the
Kiyosaki
people
book.
who are millionaires, you don't think are millionaires. They're just regular folk.
Yeah.
Most of my big clients, if they walk in the room, you think, oh, you're to clean up the place. But they're worth 10, 20, $30 million. You know, people who have real wealth, they don't feel the need to wear their wealth on the street. They're putting their money into things that's going to appreciate. Real estate, stocks, businesses, gold, commodities, you know, and it does take time to build it up. That's the key.
I think the last question we had kind of went back to Black Wall Street. Just getting back to that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you know, we had a society where the dollar kind of rotated 3, 4, 36, 100 times before it left our community. We're kind of away from that now. Mr. Marshall, what's the best way, or one of the ways we can get back to that, where we have the black dollar, you know, kind of rotate in our society or in our community before it leaves?
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get back to the way it was then, because then it was a necessity. You know, affirmative action has been good to a lot of us, especially middle-aged people or people who are over the age of 55. But one of the things it did that hurt our community was it took away the so-called talented 10. They left the communities. They moved out to the suburbs. When they moved to the suburbs, the dollars went with them. So, you know, the only time we tend to come back to the hood is through church. From 11 to 2, you know, you back there in the hood. But you ain't spending a whole lot. After church, you and your kind, you gone. Right. So we are not, it's not a necessity. We're not forced to have a black doctor, forced to have a black financial advisor, forced to go to a black bank then. We can go where we want to go. Now, I will say that I'm hopeful now. This movement that you're seeing, Bad Black movement, it gives me a lot of hope that we are going to start directing our dollars. And mostly because it used to be that the only black businesses that we would set up and sustain were the hair salons and barbershops and the t-shirt. we were not doing a lot of non-traditional businesses, but now we are. You'll be hard pressed to find a business that's not an African American that's involved in some capacity. We're in technology now, we're in science, we're in finance, we're in manufacturing, and we still don't make anything, but we are along the chain of manufacturing. So we're more diverse in our portfolio of businesses that we own. So now it's up, the onus is on us as African Americans in our community to seek out the business that does that thing that we need. You know, drive an extra mile or two, spend a little bit more money because they're not going to be as large as the other companies, so they can't cut their costs as much. So you're going to have to pay a little bit more. I think that we can get that.
I actually found, well, I didn't find, my daughter researched and found a black physician. So I drive 30 minutes out of my way just to make sure that I honor a black business. There was also very few black-owned hair care stores in this area. Right. So I would drive 30 minutes out of my way to a Jamaican lady owned the store, and then she went out of business. And that was really sad to me. I don't know why she went out of business. I don't know if she didn't have enough customers or what exactly happened, but I went out there one day and she was no longer there. And the people who are the closest to me are really nasty. I don't like to spend my money there. They tend to follow you around as if you're going to steal. It's just not a very pleasant shopping experience. So I will go the extra mile just to support businesses. And like you said, I will drive further. And yeah, it is up to us to seek out those places.
That's what it takes. And also remember, hey, some people are just not good business people.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody's gonna survive.
Yeah.
Starting a business is easy. Starting a business is easy. Starting a business is easy. Keeping it going, that's a whole
Right.
deal. Most of them fail within the first 3 years, then another 25% in the next 5 years.
Okay.
Maintaining that thing for a long period of time, that takes passion and discipline.
Okay.
Just tell him yesterday that you want to give up several times. Am I on mute? Okay.
No, we hear you.
That you want to give up. Okay. That you want to give up several times, but don't stop. You have to keep going every day. You just have to remind yourself that it's so worth it. You know, this is what you do. What Toia was saying, I firmly believe we should go that distance and to support Black-owned businesses and spend that extra money, because they are so far away because we do not support them like we should. Their prices are so high because we do not support them like we should. So if we continue to, you know, support, I think that'll bring them closer to us, and then they'll be able to probably drop those prices. But it's so worth it. The time to take to travel is so worth it.
But with that being said, Crystal, listen, you got to hold them accountable too. If they don't have that stuff going where it should, if their business is not up to speed, if they're not providing you with the service you think you should get, let them know. Hey, I'll find another Black business that does what you do. I'm not going to just accept a shoddy product or service just because you're Black.
Right.
That's a mistake.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. A friend of mine, we had a discussion about that. I said, well, I think you should give them 3 chances. You know, tell them, like you said, educate them first, tell them what's happening, and then give them another chance, see if they change. And I just say, maybe give them one more chance, because they need it. You know, we need it. We don't get all the type of support that we need. And we will support an Amazon or a Verizon, even though we've had bad customer service experiences, AT&T, as long as they give you a gift. You know, I know some person, every time they keep them on hold for a long time, it's like, I'm gonna get my gifts. So let's treat our, you know, Black counterparts the same. Let's just go that extra mile for them, you know. But I understand what you're saying, you know, but yeah, educate them and just give them a chance. How do you all feel, and I don't want to put out any business names, I do want to, but I'm not going to, about businesses who made it really big, but then they sell out to a white-owned company? What are your feelings toward that? Anybody can go first, or Toia, if you want to go first. Mr. Marshall.
I can't knock anyone for doing what they feel like they need to do. But I will tell you, I used to buy Carol's daughter's products. I used to purchase their products. And then when I found out that they sold to
L'Oreal?
Yes. I found Allie K Naturals. Allie K Naturals was created by a lady from Fort Myers. I also support Good Hair, Good Body, which was started by one of our classmates, Keela. So these are Black-owned businesses that I actually will support, but I discontinued shopping with Carol's, you know, I discontinued purchasing those products because of that. And I'm, like I said, I don't want to judge anyone for what they feel like they needed to do for their family. You know, I would like to think if I were in that position and I was offered, I don't know how many millions, that I would turn it down just to keep it Black, but I don't know.
Well, I'm going to jump in here because I have a very strong opinion about this. I think that it is estate planning. I think that if you build up a business, you look at all the major businesses that we've seen in our lifetime. BET is a great example of it, right? BET, Black Entertainment Television, Robert Johnson, grew it to be a successful business, and then Viacom purchased it. Well, first they took it public, and Wall Street is not kind to Black-owned businesses. The analysts do not follow the companies, and it's harder. So it's best to keep the company private. So he sold it to Viacom and cashed out and made billions. Took those billions and invested into other businesses. Now his ex-wife used that money to open up a spa in Virginia with horses and everything, one of the largest business of its types in that area. Now he owns Hilton Hotels and other hotels, and of course sports franchise, and has another publicly traded company. So I think that if you cannot find a market that can purchase your business that is a majority black owned market, then you need to sell it to where you can get the most out of your business. You built it up over those years, and it can't go to the grave with you. If your children are not going to take over the business for you, you got to cash out so you can use that money to go back to the community in a different way. So yes, I believe that it's an unfortunate necessary evil to continue to build wealth and transfer that wealth from generation to generation.
That was an excellent response. I never looked at it like that.
I would go with the combination of both of you all. I think it's kind of the American dream to build a business, see it successful, and then maybe sell it, and then do something else, kind of like what Mr. Johnson did. Maybe with some stipulations, that your CEOs or one certain percentage have to be African Americans, minority, or people of color, or that maybe one of your, kids or one of your siblings or somebody has to sit on the board. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it and still be fair about it. But at the same time, you kind of want to build a business to, make yourself, we just talked about generational wealth. The Johnsons are set for, hopefully life forever. Yes. And that's the way it should be. And, if I'm not speaking for all entrepreneurs and all businessmen, but it's kind of the thrill of it too. There's okay, I built this. Now, can I duplicate that over here? It's kind of a rush to see that. So
absolutely. You said you were a serial entrepreneur, so you can understand it. Here's an example of a business that did not sell, and they should have. Johnson or Ebony Magazine.
Yeah.
They tried to hold on. Susan Rice took over, tried to continue the business. Was it Susan? I know it last name was Rice, but what's her first name?
I think it's Susan.
And but it could not sustain itself. So it fell apart anyway, went into bankruptcy. So, I mean, I think that you have to be realistic. If you don't have an exit strategy for your business, then it's going to be difficult for you to capitalize on all of your efforts. Now, if your brand is talking to the Black community, whoever buys it is going to benefit them to keep that brand Black, because they're going to give up some of the profits. That's why they're buying the business, because it's profitable in that community. So
I appreciate what everybody is saying, but I'm still in my mind like, no. But I understand. I mean, because I'm just all like, let's keep it Black, and that's how I feel. But those are benefits, but it's still not going to us. It's going back to them. I don't know. That's
the unfortunate thing is, like, BET's programming is awful now, and I think it's probably purposely done. But I understand. I understand why he felt, he needed to do that. And I get it. I never considered that.
I want to say there was one of the questions you guys did not ask me. I was prepared for you.
Okay.
Books that you can read to learn about building wealth.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a couple of them. I mentioned the Millionaire Next Door, but that's not really a generational wealth book.
Okay.
This one here, Generational Wealth by LaFoy Thomas III. This is a brother. He's an attorney. And it's called Generational Wealth. Real good one. It's not, he doesn't try to write over everyone's head, and that's important. And the other one, which is a bigger one, is called Family Wealth by James Hughes. Now, that's more detailed, but it is some good information in there.
Okay.
And also, James Marshall's book is called Wealth. You can get it on Kindle.
Who's the author?
It's James Marshall.
Oh.
Yes, it's called Wealth, Protecting and it's building and protecting Black family prosperity. I can close out by giving you guys a couple of stock tips, some stocks I want you to consider buying today.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. I know you like that, Dan, huh?
Yeah. You know what? Let me bring up my app right now, so we ready.
Okay, for a speculative buy, a stock that you got to hold it for a while. It's cheap now, but eventually it's going to be a big one, I believe. It's called Aurora Cannabis.
Oh.
I already got it. Okay.
It's about weed, but it's going to be legal across the country one day. When that happens, This kind of a stock is going to really grow. It's trading around $10, $11 a
Oh,
share
wow.
right now.
Okay.
1287 right now, as of today.
Yeah, you want to
1287.
snatch up about 100 shares minimum and hold it. If it goes
Okay.
down to 5, so what? Buy more.
Okay.
That's your speculative buy. Now I want you to look at Verizon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
They're paying a 4% dividend yield, very strong company, about $55 a share. Real strong with the fiber optics, 5G. They're a real good player.
Okay.
And then for a really safe play, you can't go wrong with the Johnson & Johnson's, Procter & Gamble's, and American Express of the world. American Express was downgraded today. It's time to buy them because they are a best of class stock. This coronavirus is affecting people's travel, which means they don't put as much on their card. But if you can get an American Express for less than $100, you want to have it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
There you have it. That's for free.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Thank you so much.
I have one. And Mr. Marshall does provide complimentary financial consultations for anyone that's interested. So when you get this information after you watch the video, at the end, you can contact Mr. Marshall for that, and he'll also then I'll be the one contacting you to set that up.
Listen, that's why you get the big bucks, man, because you know when to come in and close. I'm just so glad that you guys invited me on the call. It's good to see young people really taking interest in learning about building wealth. Not only learning for yourself, but being someone that can magnify the information out to many others. It's all about circles of influence.
Right.
yes.
If you got your circles of influence working, then we can get the message out and make a change.